I'm Sean Halsall, and this is What's Left.
When I say, hey, hey, what's wrong with you? I wanna turn you back to now just to see you smile. You know I'm gonna be there one, two, three, four.
Hi everyone, and welcome to What's Left. I'll introduce my co-host, George White.
Hi, Sean.
Hi George, how you doing, mate?
Right.
And Renee Barnett. Hi
Hi,
Renee.
everybody.
Hi, Renee.
Hi,
How's everyone
George.
doing?
Good. How's everybody?
Excellent. I've had a very chaotic day of recording today, so I've finally decoupled myself from the Labour Party after the last decade and forging a new path, which I'm sure we'll get into this evening with our guest.
Wow.
So should we bring Emma in now?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited.
We've got Emma Denko joining us tonight. She was the MP for Kensington and is going to be the independent candidate in the same seat. So welcome, Emma.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, Emma.
Hi, Emma.
So how's it going, Emma?
It's going well, actually. Better than I thought. All you have to do is knock on a door and say, "It's not Tory or Labour," and they go, "Oh yeah, talk to me." And I have genuinely had a lot of people approaching me saying, "I'm so pleased you're not standing for any of those wretched parties. Cannot stand it." And that is, I have to. We are split. Kensington is split into very wealthy areas, and obviously it's a bit mixed, and very, very poor areas. And just under half my vote came from Tory-held wards. Interestingly, a lot of them are reaching out saying, "Oh, we're so glad you're not standing for any of these other parties now." And so I'm just Kensington Independent, listening to them and doing their thing, which works. And they know me because I've been around a long time, and I was MP for 2 and a bit years. So, and I've been on the council 18 years. So they do know me, and I think there's that trust thing, and I'm born and bred, which shouldn't matter, but it does to people.
It does.
So it's going well. We're getting lots of love, really, lots of love. Amazing.
Well,
Better than I
that's good to hear, especially in light of Sean's action today. So it's not lonely out there, is what you're telling us.
Not lonely. There's a lots of indies out there, and we're sort of working together or not. And very brave of you, Sean. Very brave of you. Well done.
Yeah, I was expecting a bit more of a sort of negative backlash, to be honest, but it's been overwhelmingly supportive.
There you go.
I think the last time I looked, there was like a couple of hundred quote tweets all saying congratulations, sort of attacking the Labour Party more than me and saying, "Look, this is someone who's put their heart and soul into this movement, and this is where you push them to." And it's right, and I don't feel like I've left the Labour Party. The Labour Party has dragged itself screaming away from me. My politics haven't changed. It's
That's
been
right.
Exactly how I feel.
Yeah, the party, I mean, from afar, it looks very different, the Labour Party, than it used to look, under a leader like Jeremy Corbyn. We were talking off air. And it's too bad they don't have someone like that to stand for them and to speak for them. I felt like he was much more in tune with, working people, which is what Labour is all about, or should be.
Yeah.
But of course, I criticize.
I find myself saying, even Tony Blair, and I think, oh, stop talking about Tony Blair. But I tell you what, all their tax credits and so on got me through some really tricky times, very, very difficult times. The child working tax credit and child tax credits and the nurseries and everything, that helped me through a very difficult time as a single parent. And, so I don't like thinking about him now, really, where he's gone or who he was then, indeed. But, there were far more policies of some kind of social value to people that made a difference in people's lives, at least.
Do you think the trade unions had more input into that Labour government? I know obviously Tony Blair was no massive friend to the trade union movement, but we did see some individual rights for trade union members come in. Do you think that's maybe the key, that Keir's just completely turned his back on on the trade union movement, which he'll come to regret, I'm sure, because it's not just about the money. It's there's a lot of trade union members in this country.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And we did, at least here I am again. It was a broad church, you know, 1 million people marched against the Iraq War. My MP at the time was Karen Buck. She voted against it. She wasn't thrown out of the party. I know she had a blazing row with Tony Blair. She told me, but you know, she wasn't thrown out. So there was a broad church at that time, and you know, we were allowed to debate whatever we wanted. We're certainly not now. You know, oh my goodness, the restrictions just on branch meetings and what you can discuss and what you can't. What?
Really?
Yeah, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. We had a great long list of the groups we're allowed to affiliate to and all the rest of it at the last AGM. Beginning of last year, I was still in the parties. I left in April last year, and they just sent us a long list of groups. We went, I thought, we've been affiliated to them for 20 years. And suddenly we can't anymore. No, I'm sorry.
Wow.
Well, I think as well, there's sort of been this long journey where I think the Labour Party was sort of left economic, but quite socially conservative. And then sort of in the Blair years, they moved away from left economics and had, you know, sort of left-wing social policies. And now they've both abandoned the left economics and the left social policies to a larger extent. It just seems to have abandoned any vestiges of you know, the party's history, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, the interesting thing and positive for people like me and Sean is that there's a massive void waiting to be filled. And I've seen it in the past year. As I said, I left a year ago, and that was because of social policy. And of course, Gaza as well, which is, I would have left every single day if I'd still been in the party because of Gaza. Oh my goodness, I just, there is a massive void, and there are a lot of people. I've heard from some of my friends in the party about their door knocking experiences for Labour. It's not going well. Not in my patch anyway.
I've been hearing the same from the people start doing it, and in my old patch as well. I've not lifted a finger for quite some time now, so I was sure the whip was going to contact me anyway eventually. But
yeah.
Well, I think there's this disconnect as well, because, you know, going back to sort of Kensington, it was a massive surprise to me when that seat was able to be won, and everybody had said that would be an impossibility, and yet it wasn't even won by, you know, the sort of the things that are being pressed now, the sort of steal the Tories' clothes from them, but it was won by open, honest socialist, you know, weren't having to pretend
community
to be
politics, we call it here. Community politics. Don't want to scare off my Tory voters, but it's exactly the same. It's a language thing, obviously, but no, absolutely. And you know, in 2019, I was very unlucky. Not only the Lib Dems, you know, Lord Sainsbury gave them £5 million. We were getting 5 leaflets a day from them with all their line bar charts and all the rest of it. And and then the Observer decided that that the Lib Dems were going to win, which was never going to happen in a million years. And despite that, and me, you know, I was diagnosed and had an operation for cancer during the electoral period. Despite all of that, I only lost by 150. So, you know, if I'd been well, or if they had taken their foot off the gas for one day, I would have got back in again. And that's, you know, Kensington isn't what people think, but actually a lot of the Tories who've lived here a long time aren't either what everybody thinks. We've got some really nasty ones, that's for sure, but they're not all like that. So, I mean, after Grenfell, I went to visit a lot of the resident associations in the posh bits, let's say, and they were all appalled at what had happened. They said, we had no idea how bad things were in North Kent. We're ashamed. That's what they told me. They were ashamed, and they did a, you know, putting money together for to support the survivors and so on. It was just incredible, the level of compassion from people like that. They had no idea. They read all the council's nonsense and thought everything was fine and lovely. They had no idea just how bad things were in North Ken. So that's really interesting, and I think that that changed. But of course, I won. There were a lot of things. Partly, it was the Remain vote, because we're 70% Remain. We're very, very mixed. It's 54% are non-white British from everywhere else, from migrant refugee backgrounds. 54%. So I'm a minority, only slightly, but there's all those people, all our friends and neighbours from all over the world. But Brexit was a huge thing. But there was also an element of, local, born and bred, and then knew me, they trusted me. So that was the thing. I was completely taken by surprise. I had no idea I was going to win. Completely myself, but there you go.
I think as well, 2019, a lot of the blame's got to be put at the internal machinery of the Labour Party, the staff who clearly we all know now were working to do everything they could to not win.
Yeah. I was being sabotaged. I've been told that both times, actually. In 2017, we had zero help. I had colleagues on the council who said I was doing it for a vanity project, which is absolute lie. It was just my turn, it just wasn't true. And then things sort of shifted. It was very interesting. But and even in 2019, I didn't get the help I should have. And it was from the party, not from Jeremy's office. It was the party did not want me to win. They really did not want me to win.
Yeah, I think that's important to clarify, actually. That it's, when we say the machinery of the Labour Party, we're not talking about Jeremy and the staff that Jeremy brought. It is absolutely the people who've been there forever and caused a lot of the problems before. And we're very, very angry that someone who vaguely wanted to help working people had managed to get into that seat.
Yeah. I was really surprised when I joined Westminster, apart from the fact that 4 days before I'd witnessed this hideous atrocity at the end of my road, and I don't want to go into it, but I've got PTSD. Let me just say that. But so some people were very nice, actually, very nice to me. But there were some who wouldn't even look at me, and I had no idea what I'd done. I didn't realise that loathing between the left and right of the party. I was really shocked by it, actually. So can't you just be nice? I'm new, but you know what happened at the end of my road? Jesus. So there's real venom, actually. And I had some awful comments, venomous comments about lefties or what.
Oh boy, yeah.
Yeah.
It broke the idea, though, didn't it? The idea that they've been pushing for upwards of 2 decades, that you've got to steer away from those topics because that's unwinnable ground. And those topics were talked about, and it proved that it wasn't unwinnable ground.
Yeah.
So that had to be stamped on, didn't it? You can't let that idea continue, can you?
No, absolutely not. Well,
if I could ask you, not to, go back into the previous conversation, but it's very concerning about the Grenfell fire. And are you aware of other buildings that were covered in that same material? Is this an ongoing danger to people living in low-income housing?
Absolutely. Interestingly, people, I haven't been the MP for a while now, but I'm still quite active. And I talk on panels and so on. There's architecture groups and fire safety groups and so on. And I'm constantly involved in all of that. And people contact me and they let me know what's happening in their building. And just yesterday, there was an entire building that was being vacated because they said they couldn't afford a tower block. They said they couldn't afford to remediate it. And we've had some real fire safety issues. There's none other of any kind of scale that have had that kind of cladding in Kensington, but there certainly are some who've had all kinds of other fire safety issues, really awful, really bad fire safety. So, and there's, I can't remember the number, but there are still hundreds of buildings where they have recognized that the cladding is dangerous, flammable, and they have waking watch or whatever, and it's just a nightmare. So my other foot is I'm an architecture historian and researcher of 20th century stuff, social housing. So I know a lot about this. I knew a lot before, and I know even more now. My architect friends, I've got a lot of architect friends who were very involved in the environment, young people who really care about these things. And they're absolutely appalled at what had happened. It's just the monetization of everything. You squeeze every ounce of value out of every single building, and you cut back and cut back and cut back. So I've had quite a few rows about that over the years with, I think, what we had 4 or 5 housing ministers when I was in Parliament in 30 months. It was awful. None of them cared, and one of them was Robert Jenrick, and we know how much he cares about development. They're just nasty pieces of work, and they're not really interested in doing things any other way, which is depressing. But meanwhile, there are people who have bought an expensive flat around the country, hundreds of thousands of people who bought an expensive flat which is now worth nothing. They can't sell it for £1, literally.
And this isn't just that. So some unscrupulous builder decided to stick something inappropriate on. This is that companies that made the cladding pretended that it passed fire regulations.
Absolutely. All of that came out when I was there, and the inquiry has been incredibly thorough on all it. So the final report of the Grenfell inquiry comes out in the middle of the year. I don't know if it's going to be June or July. I don't think it'll be before the anniversary, which is obviously the middle of June. Maybe July it'll come out, and it's all in there. And I've got various friends who are sitting on, advisory groups and so on, and we're all waiting to see what they say and what recommendations they make and so on. But the whole thing is a mess. And unless a future Labour government is going to be, we know it's going to be a Labour government, unless they actually accept that the built environment that we are living in now is dangerous, very expensive, and they have to have a completely new set of thoughts about it. They have to really revise their thoughts. And if they're just going to come in and say, we're going to build 500,000 homes a year, they're not going to change anything. They're going to improve anything. They're still going to be putting up dangerous buildings. And I find that deeply depressing. It hasn't sunk in quite how awful it is. And there are people who living in these dangerous buildings who've taken their own lives because they're just in impossible situations. And the mental health around North Ken is pretty bad still. Really is pretty bad, because some people just aren't getting any better. Awful.
It is awful. I mean, isn't it embarrassing to, and not only that, to the manufacturer of the cladding? Will they be held accountable? Will they have to?
Yeah, they will. Yeah, they will. I mean, I would love to think that they had a conscience, that they could be embarrassed, but many of them just lied. They just lie, and they continue to lie and say, it wasn't me. I was, I was out the back doing something else. It was this guy. It was the new guy who did that. It wasn't me. And we know they've just been caught out with endless lies. And I would love to think that some of them have a conscience. Most of them got into it to make money, and they're leaving it with money. And that's... it's not a good situation. And you expect that from the Tories. You would like to think that Labour had some kind of plan for it. I don't see it. That's why they need me. I mean, you know what, whether I get into Parliament or not, I'm going to be torturing them every day about what they are not doing.
And that's it, isn't it? There needs to be pressure from the left, from people who actually care about the people we're supposed to represent. And it baffles me. I mean, I've seen it myself being around so long, where there are some MPs who are brilliant, absolutely fantastic, and clearly care, and there are others who spend more time engaged in factional battles than actually just representing the community. Exactly.
It's all inward thinking rather than outward, isn't it?
The things they accused of us of. It's
Yeah, I mean, when people are surprised to see you on the bus, you think, okay, I don't think they've been dealt straight before. Because people get on the bus, go, oh my God, our MP's on the bus, or our former MP's on the bus. But, well, how else would I get to work? See, are you kidding? I don't know.
I mean, you're very lucky in London to still have buses, Emma. We don't have that luxury up north. They've all been cut.
No, I understand. I understand. Wow. Yeah.
And
Yeah. So there's
yeah.
still a lot more pain to go on the built environment, and I don't think Labour have a clue. I really don't think they have any understanding of the kind of debt, if you like, the backlog of work that needs to be done on this, and a complete change of thought. And they're certainly not listening to the young architects I talk to.
No, and it's these fiscal rules they've tied themselves to, which just don't make any sense economically. Oh, we'll spend money when there's growth, but yeah, how do you get growth without investing? I mean, look at what
they had a really good idea, which was to invest in renewable energy, and that kind of suddenly they couldn't afford to do that. So as far as I'm concerned, that improving, tackling the climate change and the issues that we're dealing with now daily. I listened to Farming Today, and there's some poor guy's entire farm has been flooded for 6 months. But that's widespread around the country. But that should be at the center of everything. Everything you're thinking about should be to tackle climate change. And they do not get it. They go, oh, well, we'll put some trees in, put some trees in once we've done the housing thing. We'll do the housing over there. We'll put the trees up the hill. The environmental issues must be at the center of every single plan. And that's good for health, longevity, that everything. It affects everything if you improve the environment people live in, and they don't get that.
And it's not just it's going to improve the environment, but that is a way to stimulate the economy, to create jobs, to sort of rebuild the economy from top to bottom, and sort of look at a proper just transition for workers. So workers aren't left behind with emerging technologies, and it's so baffling to me that these people who I mean, I like to say they were specialists in things, but most of them just work with think tanks or been a SPAD for somewhere else. But there's a complete lack of diversity of ideas or opinions and
strategic thought. They don't think further than the next election, actually, which is desperate. I think it really is desperate. They're literally thinking, how little can I get away with to get re-elected next time around? And there's nobody thinking strategically long term. And I think, where has that happened? Because I know how it works, the post-war, because in one of the groups that I'm in, the architects, the LCC architects in London County Council, the post-war, and some of them as old as the hills, bless them. But they were all good socialists, by the way, of course. But they were planning 50 years ahead. Where are we now? When's the election? End of the year. Let's cobble some policy together. No one's thinking long term.
But it's also not just the short termism, but it's also it's all in reaction to what somebody else has decided to do. None of it seems to be setting a goal. That's where we need to be. It all seems to be what are the others doing, or let's copy them, or let's do the opposite of them, or let's react to what they're doing.
Exactly. There's no vision. Yeah.
Even in a reactive way, I'm wondering when Russia did their little pipeline, whatever it was that happened, whoever it was that, stopped the oil and gas coming over. That I would have thought, and I think it was a big wake-up call for all of Europe, I would think. But has that sort of faded away now as things seem to tend to do, and people aren't really thinking about it that much anymore? But you would think that would be causing a big burgeoning renewable energy business going on.
Yeah, well, it should do. I mean, there's, one of the issues is electric cars. I could go and talk about for half an hour about electric cars and why they're not the answer to everything. Certainly not. And actually, when people get electric cars, they drive around conscience-free everywhere. They use their cars more, and they're wearing out the roads and all the rest of it. But electric cars are actually using power. But the heating our homes, which is a massive problem. And I looked into it. I've got a 2-bed flat here, Victorian, badly insulated, classic. So I looked into it. I didn't think I'd be able to afford a heat pump in a million years, but I looked into it. The pump itself is 12 grand, which I don't have. But in order to make it work properly, you have to insulate your main spaces. and that would have cost me £34,000. So it would have cost me nearly 50 grand to save money. And you know what?
Yeah, how long would that take?
I don't actually have a roof to put it on, but just out of interest, I asked. And you know, there should be a lot more investment going into making renewable energy usable at home, not at vast expense. You know, how do we keep our homes warm without spending stupid money and putting flammable cladding on the walls, which is what was recommended to me. So what's the cladding you think I should put inside? The insulation? And they told me, and I said, no, it's flammable. I'm not using that. Are you kidding? It's still using flammable stuff. So there's no why has nobody said we should be investing heavily in alternatives to keep people warm? Because actually the technology we have isn't up to speed. It's not.
Yeah, I'm spending some time in France right now, and I can't help but notice how well they seem to take care of their citizens. And I know that if you're a homeowner here, that you can get a government grant of, you know, tens of thousands of euros to do things like insulate your house, add solar heating, and you know, upgrade your windows, double painting your windows and that sort of thing. And to me, that makes good sense for any government, especially when you're talking about, concern about fossil fuels going away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is it that France just taxes their people so much? Or is it just their attitude that's different? And why don't other countries have that attitude, I wonder?
I think I've got the answer to that, Renee. When you've done a revolution and the ruling class are terrified of having their heads cut off, you probably tend to sit and listen.
Yeah.
I think it always gets missed as well, because it's also if you don't send currency abroad to purchase gas and oil, it helps the balance of payments and things as well. So they never seem to consider it to be an import, like other things are imports. It all seems to be just it's just like the weather. The UK imports so many cubic tons of gas every year. It doesn't seem to be, if you cut that in a quarter, all that money stays in the UK economy. But
well, that's the lack of strategic thought, isn't it? There's nobody's thinking about the whole picture. They're just tackling one little thing at a time, which is very, very poor planning indeed. And I think that's why some of my architect friends, because they say architects think in 4D. So, you know, you don't put up a building, but they're thinking of everything, every drain pipe, every nut, every bolt, every tile, everything. And they're looking at where it comes from. How long will it take to get these tiles from Germany? No, I think we should get them down the road. That we could, all of these things, they think holistically. And I don't think in government we have anybody who has the capacity to think like that. And they don't even know that they can't. They're literally just scrabbling from one disaster to the next. Unfortunately, it's I think we're at a bad time. But you know what? There's people like me and Sean. We can change all that, can't we, mate? Yeah.
I absolutely hope so, mate. Yeah, I absolutely hope so. Hold the feet to the fire and get some actual policy that people will benefit from, because it's needed. It's needed more than ever.
Yeah, it is.
In the United States, people, very much will vote against their own interests, and I don't understand that. I'm assuming the message just hasn't gotten through to them. And I mean, I don't know, Emma, how you feel. I think I might guess about Brexit, but I couldn't believe the people that I knew that voted to leave. And now is like, it just caused such a mess. And I thought, who couldn't see that coming?
Exactly. I was a Remain and Reform. We did need reform, but I was Remain and Reform. I've got some very dear friends who were Lexiters, should I say, left Brexiters. But I just think, well, look what's happened. We're in the pocket of Biden. We're in his pocket. Interestingly, I had very interesting education with some very forward-thinking nuns, Catholic nuns. And I'll never forget, Sister Philomena, I must have been 13. I have no idea why I remember it always. She said, she was giving us a geography lesson, with geography history. And she said, girls, you've got to remember that whatever happens to England, either they stay with Europe or they get eaten up by the United States. So just remember that. I thought, oh, that's interesting. I don't know why it stayed in my head. And then we had, that was the first time I voted, was to join the common market, as it was then. That was my first ever vote, because I remembered Sister, and she was so right. So right, this weird, wacky, very ugly nun. But she was quite right that either we do with our neighbours or we get eaten alive by them, and we are being eaten alive by them.
Well, just with the gas again, when you said, Renee, when the Russian gas has been turned off, where does the gas now come from? The liquefied natural gas coming on the ship from the United States,
There you go.
And just on your point there, Renee, about American people voting against their interests, it might be nice to occasionally see someone who represents anyone's interests stand for anything in America.
Well, it would be, but it's whatever the lesser of the evils are is what we should be voting for. Those are the choices that we have.
And I think that's plays massively into what people like me, Emma, and others are doing. It's we can't keep just sitting back and voting for the lesser of two evils. It's time to offer people a legitimate choice and a different path, and try and do what we can to break up that sort of duopoly in politics, both in the United States and here.
It's getting bigger daily. There are people approaching me daily, saying, "What do I do? I'm a councillor. What do I do? Or I want to be a parliamentary candidate. What do I do?" And they always come to me because I guess it was known that I left the party a while ago, and that I decided to stand as an independent. People begging me in the street. I'm not exaggerating. You've got to stand. We can't vote for anybody else. So that was some months ago, and there's a lot more to come, and there is, as I said, a massive void, which is down to me and Sean, just us two, to fill, and all the people joining us, obviously. But there is, and something has to come out of that, and I really hope we don't get into awful factional fighting, which could happen. I think we just had to be comradely and actually show a better way of doing politics. Rather than getting in the old way of power struggles. I'm so uninterested. I literally just want to do whatever I can to make people's lives better. I just don't care about anything else. And I do that whether I get into Parliament or not, seriously.
Yeah, that's it.
Absolutely.
Because I think in a lot of places, especially outside of the major sort of metropolitan cities, there is, I think, I wouldn't be exaggerating to say that there probably is the choice of three mainstream parties on the ballot paper in most elections. Maybe a bit more in local elections, in council elections, but in sort of general elections, it would be Labour, Conservative, and Liberal Democrat. They would be your options on at the polling booth. It has been, in those terms, it is literally which of those is the lesser of three evils, I suppose. But there has never been that alternative. Even where say the Green Party, for example, have shown as an alternative in some instances, not in
I think they're going to pick up a protest vote. I think they're going to pick up a protest vote, and I think people should really have a good look at their politics and see if that's what they stand for. But they're not. They say, "Oh, Green, they're nice." Anyway, we'll see, won't we? We'll see. And so we're going to offer alternatives, and as I say, it's going. Whether it's enough, I have no idea. But I wasn't going to win in 2017. It was a complete joke. People laughed at me. "You think you're going to win here? This is Kensington. Come on!" And the weird thing happened. So. The history changes people's thoughts, and we just don't know, do we? So who knows? We might get a whole rush of independents and others in Parliament. That would be cool.
Yeah, I think now more than ever, people are absolutely furious with mainstream politics.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think there is an appetite. There is an appetite because, regardless of what the polls say about the Labour Party, I have never since 2020 knocked a door and had someone be enthusiastic about the Labour Party. It's more the Tories are shite, I'm not voting for them. It's very rarely ever, oh yeah, no, I'm massively enthusiastic about this Labour Party policy. I remember on one doorstep I was knocking on my own last local election, an ex-dock worker in my ward saying to me, get off my doorstep, I can't vote for Keir Starmer, you'll never have my vote while I'm in there. And for anyone who knows me, I'm covered in left-wing tattoos, so I'm rolling up my sleeve, go, no, I'm one of you, mate, I'm one of you, please lend me your vote, I don't believe this. The guy said, all right then, yeah, I'll vote for you, but I'm not voting for the next one. Okay, I'll take that. But
yeah,
it comes to a point where people just are furious, and there is no alternative. Though I think, regardless of what happens, we're going to see a very low turnout the next election. I think people are just.
Well, let's see what happens with Gaza. I mean, certainly in Kensington, that has turned a lot of people. They either won't vote, or they're certainly not going to vote for the major parties. I literally hear that every single day, and we've got a big Muslim community, but not only Muslims, obviously all their friends and allies, of which I'm one, because I've been serving them for 18 years, and that's right across the borough. People are and just that it's not. And Gaza is horrific, but it's not just that. It's the lack of any kind of intelligent foreign policy. So, we have people from all over the world who've been fleeing their countries. I mean, I've met torture victims who went to hell and back, and then they're over here, and they say, well, why, what on earth are we doing? And the foreign policy is appalling. And just because you've got a smoothie like David Cameron, who's got a house around the corner from me, by the way, it doesn't mean to say we're going to get any good out of it. He just sounds competent, but he's not really, So I don't know. It's I don't know where people like that will vote, but there's a lot of anger out there with all the major parties.
Yeah, same in the United States.
Yeah,
I mean, I wonder, is there a way to to have a government without parties and just have people voting for the person that's going to.
You're thinking of Russia.
Pardon?
You're thinking of Russia. They don't have parties.
Oh, no. What I'm saying is the people that, like you're an independent, and people will vote for you, possibly from either one of the major parties. Because of the policies that you are standing for.
Yeah.
So rather than vote for someone because they have a label, in our country, it's Republican and Democrat, in yours, there's several other parties, majorly Labor and Tory, but it just seems like the labels cause problems too.
Yeah.
Like, then they're not going to look at you as like just a person and who you are and what you're representing. Say, oh, she's with this party. I never vote that way. I always vote straight along my party line.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, when people ask me, I don't know who to vote for. I say, well, don't look at the party, look at the person, which is just what you said. You should look at the person and see, how are they born and bred in the borough? And I just give a list of all the things that would benefit me, basically. But look at the person, look at their long dedication to the ordinary people of Kensington and so on. I think that should be far more of it. Sorry, my cat's escaping. She's been sitting on my knee. There should be a lot more of that. There should definitely be more of looking at the actual person, because some terrible people get voted in, and you just don't know until they're in place and they've got all the support in the world, and then they're good. It's not right.
And I think a lot of people just vote brainlessly, just for whatever person. Oh, that's my party. And it could be a horrible, horrible person that they're voting for.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I have no answers. I have no solutions.
Well, and I think it's something that's been, abused for years and years, hasn't it? They've gone, here's a nice safe seat.
Mhm.
Here, let's put somebody in based upon how loyal to the party they are, or how loyal to the leadership of the party they are, and completely ignores the fact that that is a safe seat because individual voters come out and vote for them. It's just it's completely at odds with what politics is supposed to be, isn't it?
Exactly. It's the whole glove puppet. Yeah, party glove puppet. I think there's far more of them in both parties, actually, people without their own thoughts. I couldn't bear it. It's why I have been invited to join all kinds of parties since I left. And actually, you know what? I think I know what I'm doing here, guys. Thanks. I'm just going to play my lady card. I'm not going to compromise what I think now. Thank you.
Can I ask you, Emma, and you and your constituents, when you look, at America, what do you see besides the fact that, now you're getting too much into our pockets or vice versa?
Yeah.
What do you see? Are you looking at America?
I see dysfunction, and a lot of people who are. I mean, I've seen poverty here, but way beyond anything you can imagine, way beyond, and ingrained generational disadvantage, and that is shocking. It's really shocking in an advanced, supposedly wealthy country. That can happen. Yeah, and the racism, we got racist police. Oh my God, yes, but they're over there. They got guns, and they'll just shoot you as all of those things. I find so shocking.
Not just the racist police, but the racist citizenry. All have guns.
Yeah. I'm going to say we have it here, and it shocks me, and I speak out for it. But it's nothing like what there is in America. It's just crazy. It just seems dysfunctional, and that's awful because we've got billionaires going around in planes all over the place, and people eating out of bins, and and taking drugs to get them through the day. It's horrible.
I think that's the point. I don't think it's dysfunctional. I think it's functioning perfectly well for the reason.
That's the intention.
It's people who pay to play, isn't it? It's the companies and these billionaires who donate vast fortunes to ensure they don't pay tax, and making sure in the UK you can't get a dentist appointment or any healthcare in the United States. It's functioning perfectly well. It was just never designed to function for ordinary people.
I think that is a good point. Yeah, absolutely. How long it would take to actually turn things around, I have no idea, but we seem to be going the same way. I find that really frightening. I really do. And whereas in my lifetime, I was brought up I didn't even notice colour because we were in such a mixed neighbourhood. They were just all our friends. Some of them looked different. And it wasn't until I reached my teens that I realised some people looked down on people because they looked different. It was such a shock to me. And I've seen that come and go in my lifetime, and there was a time when it was so much better, and now there's people being attacked in the street for having the wrong face. That's just horrific. We're just going back
with that rise in racism. I mean, it's terrible in the United States. They don't even. I mean, they say the quiet part out loud now. They don't even care anymore. It's really crazy, and it's really scary. I don't know why people want to live in that kind of a hateful way, rather than to embrace other cultures, other people. But like you said, I mean, I grew up in a tiny southern town that was all white, so I didn't know any black people until I moved away. And because there hadn't been any black people, there was really nothing said about it. So I didn't have any preconceived ideas until much later on. But it's like, then when I moved to the city and met people of all types, I didn't have that built-in racism. I'd love to see that cat.
Come here. There she is. Say hello.
Oh my goodness.
The Sphinx, which is why she's so loud. She's very loud.
Oh, she is. That's so cute.
Yeah, she's a very sweet little girl, but she's just quite noisy.
Commenting, oh my goodness, how exotic that cat looks.
I think as well, Renee, it's not just about the sort of closed-minded, bigots who are going around believing this stuff, but it's about the that it's being promoted as well, that it's being sown, it's being pushed out there, because you've got to have a scapegoat. You've got to have it. Can't if it's not going to be the bosses who are to blame. It's got to be somebody else. You've got to have that scapegoat, and you've also got to have something to divide people up into. It's the look at them over there. They're after your stuff.
Exactly.
So they're not looking over here.
That's right. Well, it's setting communities against each other. I know I see our council do that all the time. So, there's these people that get in the homes. It's the people we've welcomed in and we're getting the homes. And what? I mean, we just heard today, our borough, Kensington Chelsea, was very generous and welcoming to the Ukrainian refugees. And I have friends who had people in their homes and so on. Now, suggestion that we might do this for Palestinians, because we have a lot of people with, in North Kem especially, we've got a lot of people with Palestinian family members. And are we going to do that for that? No, none of that. No family reunion. No nothing. No, they don't sound right. They don't look right, and we don't want any of that. I just find that deeply, deeply depressing. That humanity has gone. And it's up to people like us actually to keep reminding them, because that it's inhumane, that we're all humans, then nobody's any less human than anybody else.
No, for me, the only thing that should ever divide us is, do we own stuff, and is that how we make our living, or do we have to sell our labour?
Yeah.
If we've got to sell our labour, then you're all working class, and we all have the same interests.
Uh-huh.
We're all having the piss taken out of us at the moment by the people who own all the stuff. So that should be, if we all realise that and got off our knees, we might be able to have nice things.
Yeah,
absolutely. And rise together.
Yep,
absolutely.
Yeah.
People are being manipulated into divisiveness and hatred.
I mean, at the same time, a lot of them are very politically aware these days. I find a lot of teenagers, people in their early 20s, people who've been through the COVID stuff, who've been to university through all the difficult times, they are very, very politically aware. That they will change things if we don't. Yeah,
they're not buying this stuff. They are not. I know. I have two 23-year-olds at home, and it amazes me, and so that brings in all their friends and stuff that I get to be exposed to. And it amazes me how aware they are, not so much politically, but socially with their friends. I mean, race is just a non-issue. It's not even on their radar.
Yeah.
They've got friends of different races and from different cultures and things. And also people, mental health issues. People that are, so-called on the spectrum, they're very aware and very inclusive of different ways of being, looking, whatever. It's really heartening. I just hope we've got time to wait for them to take over, because I think we're going to be better off. I sure hope so.
We have to be. Yeah, we have to be.
Yeah, we can't let it get any worse.
I wonder as well if it's anything to do with the way that people get their information, because people of that generation aren't getting they're not watching telly, they're not watching the news, they're not even watching any telly. It's all social media and short, snappy messages as well. It's not they're not watching something that lasts an hour. They're watching something that lasts 5 minutes, and that gets the message. That has to get the message across in a quick bite, doesn't it?
So that's where we've been going wrong, George.
Well, maybe.
Stop watching the news.
Yeah, well, they're finding things that the news their own way. It may not always be the right news or accurate news,
That's
but
right.
they have access to endless media, don't they? Which
Well,
is
that's
They
the
have access to
that's
the
possibly.
same misinformation
I've got to
that
put
we
this cat
do.
to bed. Sorry, give me 2 minutes.
But yeah, the kids have access to the same disinformation and misinformation as we do. But somehow, when it comes to the divisive stuff, they're not buying it. You
No,
know,
and I think that's a big part of when we were discussing what we were going to do in the early sort of conception of what's left here. It was about generating something which wasn't about that, and sort of more long form, talking to interesting guests around things
Yeah.
we can get under the surface of what's going on. And I mean, we've had some brilliant guests. We've been very, very lucky to have some of the amazing guests with their experiences they've had and the conversations we've had. And I think that's
Yeah.
important. More people doing that, and independent media is important for changing minds and speaking to people.
Yeah. And, you know, we're all working people too. So it's not like we can't identify with our neighbors, you know, who are being affected by everything. But yeah, I've got great hope in this next generation that's coming up.
Absolutely, and it's up to us to lay the groundwork actually, and make them and rise, as I say, raise them up, listen to them, and let them know that that they matter. So I'm writing a manifesto, and I'm just asking everybody to send me ideas, and it's quite interesting. So rather than saying these are the things I stand for, I'm saying, well, these are the headings I think are interesting. Tell me what you think. So I'm putting a manifesto written by other people. Well, we'll see how that works.
I think Emma, the important thing is we don't buy into that short termism that we've just been talking about. Them, if this doesn't work next year, the year after, 5 years time, as long as we get there in the next decade, 2 decades, we've succeeded. We don't need to play this short term game. We need to win hearts and minds and show people as an alternative and something different.
And hope. The big one is giving people hope. And that is number one, I think, for everybody. Huh?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But before we go, Emma, do you want to talk to people how they could get involved in your campaign? I'm just going to put your website up there if anyone wants to get involved.
Yes, if anybody would like to come to the beautiful borough or somehow get involved. So there are various levels. I've got some good a lovely Twitter army, and people attack me on Twitter. They pile in and put people straight, which is fantastic. So Twitter is my main platform. Weirdly, we're building up all the other Instagram and TikTok and so on. Facebook is getting busier now. But if anybody would like to volunteer for anything at all, or actually send me money, a little bit of money, that would always help. I've got my email address. Have you got my email there, Sean? It's EDC4 Kensington@gmail.com. So EDC4Kensington@gmail.com, and you have access to anything. But we do need people with different skills. I mean, people who are willing to thank you, who are willing to just to come up and be foot soldiers. We need a lot of that. And some people are happy to go in the posh bits, or the middling bits, or the difficult bits, or the buildings which are impossible to get into. So people say, I can get into any building. Thought, oh, okay, right, you can do all the difficult blocks, because we have some which are almost impossible to get into. Any kind of backup really is good. We do need people in their millions to come and help in Kensington, because it would be huge to beat an incredibly well-funded Labour candidate and a former banker who's the Tory, who I don't want to be rude about her, but she's a banker. So that's it would be amazing if we could win it again for the people, actually. But that's because that's what I would be doing, not selecting one group or another over another, but to look after everybody. And we need lots of help.
And
Thank you,
that's
Sean.
the important thing, isn't it? When these crowd-funded sort of just people getting involved in campaigns, it means something. You're not beholden to any shadowy interests that no one knows who they are, and
Mm.
it means you can be free and speak with your mind and represent the people you're supposed to represent, not some
Exactly.
gambling company or whoever else has funded the campaigns we see.
Yeah.
Big oil with a
Yeah,
lot of talk.
my slogan is I never forget I work for you, because people do forget who they work for.
They do.
I've never worked for the Labour Party. I think they know that. I've been a Labour member, but I've always worked for the people who elected me. So that's I think that's indisputable, and that's what we all have to stand for, actually. Yeah.
Amazing.
It should be.
Yeah.
Oh, what's left, George? I'll let you finish this one.
What's left, George?
What's left? Hopefully, hope is left. Hopefully, there is a difference, and that people can wake up to vote for their own interests. And I don't know.
Yeah.
So hope, but thank you very much for joining us, Emma.
Thank you.
It's been fantastic, and for everyone else, we'll see you soon.
Good night, everybody.
Cheers.
Thank you.